لتعجيل فرج المولى صاحب العصر والزمان ولحفظ وجوده الشريف افلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بفضل الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، وأفضل الصلاة وأزكى التسليم على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. واللعن الدائم على أعدائهم أجمعين من لدن آدم إلى قيام يوم الدين، آمين رب العالمين. We recite in the الصلوات الشعبانية, the salawat that we recite in the month of Sha'ban after each prayer, after Dhuhr prayers. We say اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد الفلك الجارية في اللجج الغامرة يأمن من ركبها ويغرق من تركها المتقدم لهم مارق والمتأخر عنهم زاهق واللازم لهم لاحق. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد الفلك الجارية, the arcs that are floating smoothly, في اللجج الغامرة, in the darkest and the harshest of the waves, in the middle of the sea. يأمن من ركبها, whoever joins in the ark, he will be safe. ويغرق من تركها, and a person who falls short will drown. المتقدم لهم مارق, the person who puts himself in front of them is considered مارق, which inshallah we'll explain. والمتأخر عنهم زاهق, a person who falls short is a زاهق. واللازم لهم لاحق, the one who sticks to them, he will follow them and he will be able to follow their footsteps. This content, as the content of the salawat, is not only present in our books. This meaning we can find it in the books of the other sects. For example, when we speak about الطبراني في المعجم الكبير, it's one of the Sunni sources, صاحب السواعق المحرقة, the narration, the famous hadith that says إني مخلف فيكم ما أن تمسكتم به ما لن تضلوا بعدي أبدا, the famous hadith of ثقلين. There is a part that we usually do not mention. He says لا تقدموهم فتهلكوا ولا تتأخروا عنهم فتهلكوا. Do not put yourself in front of them because that will lead to your perishment, and do not fall short because you will perish. ولا تعلموهم فإنهم أعلم منكم, and do not teach them because they are more knowledgeable than you. And we have as well the famous hadith of the Safina that exists in both sects, where it says, the Prophet says مثل أهل بيتي فيكم كسفينة نوح, that the example of my household amongst you is like the ship or the ark of Noah. من ركبها نجا ومن تخلف عنها غرق وهوى. Whoever hops onto the ark and joins the ark, he will survive, and whoever doesn't, he will غرق وهوى, will drown and will fall down. When I mentioned in the salawat المتقدم لكم مارق, مارق is the person who puts Ahlul Bayt behind. That means that what he thinks, his desires, is always in the front, is always the priority, and they disregard the words of Ahlul Bayt salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhim. And when we say mariq, it means kharij an ad-din. Kharij, someone who is not part of the religion, someone who is considered not of the Islam and not of the muwalin li Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. وَالْمُتَأَخِّرُ عَنْهُمْ, the one who falls short and who stalls, the one who can't catch up because he doesn't want to, زاهق, it means halik, someone who perishes in the dunya and in the hereafter. So taqaddum doesn't give me survival. When I put myself in front, doesn't give me survival. When I put myself in the back and I fall short, it doesn't give me survival. And we have to understand one thing, that when Allah ordered us to join the ark and to follow Ahlul Bayt salawatullahi wa salamu alayhim. It's not merely a matter of ta'abbud. Allah didn't say that that's how I want to be worshipped. Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala is telling me that there is a divine leadership, that we have to listen to it, we have to submit to it. When we speak about ta'abbud, people like to understand the philosophy behind the ibadah. But when it comes to ordering us to listen and to follow, we do not have to follow the wisdom behind this, because there is a qiyada ilahiyya la budda an yusgha laha. When we speak about divine leadership, why is that? Is it only how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants things to be done? But Allah created the world in a way that survival and success cannot be achieved in a chaotic environment. When there is order, there is success. When there is order, there is achievements. And the only way to reach order, because when we speak about the message of Islam, why is it important for the people to follow the laws of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala? I will mention this point quickly after Salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Throughout history, we see human beings, they were born like, in the forests or in the deserts or whatever, and they lived in caves, individuals or small families, small groups, but then they were in constant procedure of seeking for the likes, for the people that are like them, the same characteristics, they have the same desires, the same needs, in order to live in a group so they can become stronger in the face of the hardships of the dunya. Whether it's, be it like, for example, wild animals that can eat the human beings, or a foreign enemy that can take what these human beings have. So they started to seek to live in pacts, to live in groups, but when they lived in a society, in a community that is formed of a lot of people, they started to face a different kind of danger. And that danger is what? The need to protect their privacy. What is for them? Because we started to notice that individuals in this community started to attack other individuals to take what they have. And for many motivations, maybe just for the sake of taking, maybe for the sake of the need. There had to be a system, a law that is not only physical law like the police force that we have nowadays. The police force can ensure security, but to a certain extent. Not fully, not the max security. There has to be law that can a person control himself through that law. And who puts that law? It has to be something that is considered an internal surveillance system. And the one who puts this law is the one who created the human beings, because he's the one who knows the nature of his creation more than others. And that law was brought to us by Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala through Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa So to live a happy life in a healthy community, there has to be submission to Ahlul Bayt salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhim. Sometimes you ask a Muslim, a mu'min, you tell him, do you believe in Allah? He says yes. Do you believe in Rasulullah? He says yes. Do you believe in Amir al-Mu'min? He says yes. But then when you look closer onto the behavior of this human being, of this mu'min, you will see in certain actions, he's a mutaqaddim. He puts himself in front of Ahlul Bayt. In certain actions, he puts himself behind Ahlul Bayt, and he doesn't want to catch up. So how accurate is joining the ark should be? How accurate, how dangerous the fact that I should look closer onto my own behavior to understand whether I am falling short or I am putting myself ahead. We will mention this point. In the year 9th of Al-Hijrah, this year عرف بعام الوفود. We know the verses that says in the Quran, إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفره إنه كان توابا. when the verses speaks about people joining Islam in groups, this happened in the year 9th of Al-Hijrah, where tribes started to come to the Messenger of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala joining Islam. In one of the events, a group of the tribe of Bani Tamim, they came to the Prophet Salawatullahi Wassalamu alayhi to join Islam. And every time the Prophet would sit with the tribe and they say the shahadat, Rasulullah would choose a person to be the middleman between him and the tribe, the representative, like the Islamic figure in that community. So Banu Tamim came, they sat with the Prophet Salawatullahi Wassalamu alayhi, and then the Prophet was about to choose the person, and then two people jumped of the audience, of the companions of the Prophet. One of them said, Ya Rasulullah, why don't you appoint Al-Aqra' ibn Habis, one of the people? And then another person came up, he said, no, Ya Rasulullah, don't choose Al-Aqra' ibn Habis, choose Al-Qa'qa' ibn Ma'bad. And they started to fight. One person told the other, you only chose that person because you wanted to go against me. And then when that situation happened, a verse came from Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala down to show how accurate is submitting to Ahlul Bayt Salawatullahi wa Salam alayhi. The verse said, يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تقدموا بين يدي الله ورسوله واتقوا الله إن الله سميع عليم. O faithful ones, do not put yourself in front of the Prophet, in front of Allah and in front of His Messenger, and be pious. There was a warning here. There was a threat. People might say, well, they done it in front of the Prophet and it was all right. They were suggesting, what's the issue with that? A verse came down to show how dangerous this kind of action is. So, لا تقدموا بين يدي الله ورسوله واتقوا الله إن الله سميع عليم. So, it's fully the issue, the matter is in the hands of the Prophet Salawatullahi Wasallam. I can't even question. There has to be a full submission. I will give you two examples, or like one example. During the time of Rasulullah, there was that famous man, is Abdullah ibn Ubay ibn Salul. He was famous by the name of Shaykhul Munafiqeen, the head of the hypocrites. He had his son Abdullah as well. His son is Abdullah ibn Abdullah ibn Ubay ibn Salul. Abdullah, his father died. His father was a munafiq, while Abdullah was a mu'min. His father died. He came to Rasulullah and he begged the Prophet. He said to him, please, Ya Rasulullah, I know my father was a bad person. I want you to come and pray upon him. So the Prophet, out of respect to that mu'min, he went to pray upon the body of Abdullah ibn Ubay ibn Salul. Rasulullah started to pray. Umar came, and this is a Sunni hadith, and he grabbed the Prophet by his clothes and he dragged him until the clothes left a red mark on the neck of the Prophet. And he said to him, didn't Allah forbid you from praying upon the munafiqeen? Which is a verse in the Quran. Then the Prophet said to him, he said, Allah gave me a choice. He said to me that whether you seek forgiveness for them or you do not seek forgiveness for them, whether you ask Allah to forgive them 70 times, Allah won't forgive them. He said, Allah gave me the choice and I want to seek forgiveness for him more than 70 times. So Rasulullah did something, but another person saw that he has an authority to give an advice to the Prophet Salawatullahi Wassalamu alayhi. And now we are in the time of the occultation of Sahib al-Asri was Zaman, because the earth should not be empty from a hujjah. And the Imam told the fourth Safir that this Safara will stop after me. And the events that will happen will put the Shia to test. And they will have to go to the people that have the knowledge of our hadith. Sayyid al-Khu'i يعبر أن المعلوم أن المراد هو الذين فهموا الحديث. When the Imam tells me to go back to the people who will give me the hadith, who will narrate the hadith, it means the people who understood the hadith. We have now a group of people nowadays, they abandoned the advice of the Imam in the taqleed, or they wanted to depend on themselves to go and read the ahadith themselves and understand it. While the Imam is ordering us to go and take it from the people who understand the hadith. If I want to apply it on myself nowadays, some people, they question the ahadith, or like they choose to not believe in a certain aspect in aqeedah just because there is differences between the ulama about it. When it comes to submitting to Ahlul Bayt salawatullahi wa salamu alayhim, how does this happen during the fact that there is contradiction between the scholars in terms of aqeedah? In terms of the jurisprudential rulings, we do not have any issue. Even if the ulama, they have differences, I follow a marja', then I see what he says about it. I don't submit to him, but I submit to the evidence that they showed, because they claim that it's derived from the word of the Ma'soom. But when it comes to the aqeedah, for example, like wilayah takwiniyah, something that ulama have differences about, knowing that the Imam has the formative mandate, has the authority over this universe, and the control over this universe that is given to them from Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. What is the best way to do, what is the best method to approach this kind of ma'rifah in a way that I'm not going to fall short and fall from the ship, and I have to join the ark? What is the best way? We have two methods that are known. A method that is wrong and a method that is right. The method that is wrong, where we have an understanding, an aqeedah and Ahlul Bayt salawatullahi wa salamu alayhim, that exists in the hadith. Okay? So I choose to put it aside and ignore it and disregard it until I gain 100% of the knowledge about it, until I educate myself about every misconception, and I will tell you that this will lead to nowhere. Because as long as there is something about Ahlul Bayt aqeedah, there always will be misconceptions, and there always will be people that will question it. If I want to have that kind of mindset, I won't have ma'rifah at all. How am I going to increase my ma'rifah in Ahlul Bayt? So I put it aside, and I don't believe in it. I'm not going to take a decision about it until I acquire all the knowledge about it, and this is wrong. But the right method that I'm supposed to use in the approach towards the ma'rifah is anything that is said about Ahlul Bayt that doesn't contradict with the Quran and with our belief in Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, even though that the maraja and the ulama have differences about, I take it because it's aqeedah. In theology, I'm not supposed to do taqleed. Just take and submit to one of the scholars. I'm supposed to go and seek the knowledge myself. So what happens, I accept it, and I believe in it, and I keep searching for evidences that either proves it right or wrong. Why is that? We have, for example, companions of the Imam came to him complaining about an individual in the community. His name is Kulayb Taslim. Kulayb, his name is Kulayb. But they used to mock him. They used to say Kulayb Taslim, Kulayb submission. Why? Because this person, anything that he heard about the Imam, he would submit to it straight away, without investigating. The Imam praised him. He said, may Allah have mercy upon him. And he didn't respect the fact that they were mocking him. Why is that? Because the possibility that there is something that is said by the Imam, out of my respect to the Imam, because I'm very careful, I don't want to be of the mariqeen, I don't want to be of the zahiqeen, so I take the safest way. I accept it, but when a proof that proves otherwise, a contradiction with the Quran, a contradiction with our aqeedah and Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, that's when I refuse it. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So it is important for us when it comes to a certain idea, certain opinion, I have to make sure that it is safe and healthy and it doesn't contradict with our aqeedah, and I have to ask, especially during the time of occultation, I have to ask. The hadith says, إِنَّمَا هَلَكَ النَّاسِ لِأَنَّهُمْ لَا يَسْأَلُونَ. Who do I listen to? In the verse in the Quran where it says, فَلْيَنْظُرُ الْإِنسَانُ إِلَى طَعَامِهِ, everyone should think carefully about his ta'am. Well, the literal translation is food. Imam al-Baqir says that every person should think about the knowledge that he's taken it, where he's taken it from. Am I taking the knowledge from this person because he dresses well? Or because he has a lot of followers and subscribers on YouTube? Or because he's famous? Or because he has the proper aqeedah that takes me to Ahlul Bayt and the submission towards Ahlul Bayt? The taqaddum and the ta'akhur in terms of joining the ark, how does it sometimes happen? As I mentioned earlier, I put my desires first. You tell a person, you tell him, for example, you have to do khums. Or in any business that you go to, you have to make sure that the interest has such and such rulings. And this kind of transaction is suht. This kind of transaction is riba. The answer sometimes that we get is that if I'm going to look and concentrate on these ahkam, how am I going to become rich or to become wealthy? And they say, well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told me to pay khums because Allah doesn't want me to be rich. Or you tell this lady, for example, makeup is haram. Then their own desires comes. They says, for example, how am I going to look better? How am I going to feel better about myself? But it is haram. And beautifying yourself is exclusive for your husband. And then comes what? The personal desire. What's my preference? My personal preference, what it is. In any ruling, that's how we think. Because of the attachment to the desires and the nafs. That comes in priority, and then the ruling of Allah, the order of Allah, tabarak wa ta'ala, comes secondary. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So, as we understood that it is something that is very accurate that Allah tabarak wa ta'ala to a point when two people had just a suggestion in front of the Prophet, a verse came down. After I joined the ark, what is my role? I have a responsibility. I have a responsibility. Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullahi wa salamu alayh, he says, ألا وإن لكل مأموم إمام يقتدي به. When I follow the Imam, am I considered a Shia straight away? Are we considered Shia? In the real meaning of the Shia? No. We are considered lovers. We love Ahlul Bayt salawatullahi wa sallam. The hadith says, who are the Shia? Shi'atuna Ammar wa Salman wal Miqdad wa Abu Dhar. Ammar and Salman al-Miqdad and Abu Dhar, during the attack on the house of Fatima al-Zahra and Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayh, Amir al-Mu'mineen says, ارتد الناس إلا أربعة. All of the people, 10,000 people in Medina, all of them pledged allegiance to Amir al-Mu'mineen. Amongst them people who used to pray, people who used to fast, people who submitted to the Prophet. All of them at that time, they abandoned the wilayah of Amir al-Mu'mineen except for 4. He said, these are the Shia. Okay, how am I going to reach to be in the same level of Ammar and Yasir, Ammar ibn Yasir and Salman and Abu Dhar and al-Miqdad? Because Salman and Abu Dhar, according to the hadith, they are the pillars of the earth. بِهِمْ تُرْزَقُونَ وَبِهِمْ تُمْطَرُونَ. Through them Allah sends rain. Through them Allah sends rizq. And they are not Ahlul Bayt. They are awtadul ard. How am I going to reach that stage? Because when the Imam salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi ajallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif comes out, the people the circles that surround him are on different status. You have the awtad, you have the abdal, you have the salihin, and then you have the rest of the people. I want to be of the awtad. I want to be like Salman, like Ammar. What is the key? In the hadith by Amir al-Mu'mineen, he says, ألا وإن لكل مأموم إمام يقتدي به ويستضيء بنور علمه. For every person who is seeking guidance, there is an imam, there is a leader that he will be led by, and he will take his light as what clears the path for him. And then he says, ألا وإن إمامكم قد اكتفى بدنياه بطمريه. Your imam, what he's satisfied with from this dunya is these 2 old pieces of cloth. وَاكْتَفَى مِنْ طُعْمِهَا بِقُرْصَيْهِ. And the food that he is satisfied with is these 2 pieces of hard barley bread. أَلَا وَإِنَّكُمْ لَا تَقْدِرُونَ عَلَى ذَلك. You won't be able to do that. وَلَكِنْ أَعِينُونِي. But help me. بِوَرَعٍ وَاجْتِهَادٍ. Through abstinence and diligence and chastity and foresight. وَعِفَّةٍ وَسَدَادٍ. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. 3 points that attracts the sight in this hadith that I will mention. First thing, the Imam is explaining to us the main step that we should take to be proper followers and proper Shia. When he says, أَلَا وَإِنَّ لِكُلِّ مَأْمُومٍ إِمَامٍ يَقْتَدِي بِهِ, it means to turn the ma'soom, the Imam. The way we deal with the Imam nowadays, we deal with them as a symbol. He's just a symbol. Amir al-Mu'mineen, for example, he's just like the sword of Dhul Fiqar that we wear as a necklace. Imam al-Mahdi is just the number 313 that we use as a, for example, plate for the car, or a tattoo that we put on the neck. You know, this is the status of the Imams nowadays. The Imam is telling us that أَلَا وَإِنَّ لِكُلِّ مَأْمُومٍ إِمَامٍ يَقْتَدِي بِهِ. It means you have to deal with the Imam as the role model, the qudwa. You move the Imam from the position of being merely a symbol into the position of being a leader, a qudwa, a role model. يَقْتَدِي بِهِ وَيَسْتَضِيءُ بِنُورِ عِلْمِهِ. So in order to be proper Shia, we turn the position of the Imam from being a symbol into being a role model. The second thing that attracts our side in this hadith, he says, وَلَكِنْ أَعِينُونِي بِوَرَعٍ وَاجْتِهَادٍ وَعِفَّةٍ وَسَدَادٍ. The Imam is saying, aid me. He's not saying aid yourself and help yourself. He's saying to us, help me. He's reaching out to the Shia, telling them, help me. It means I am the principal of this school, of this university, the university of Tashayyu', the university of the Wilaya, and I am telling you that you have the chance to come and be with me and to help me. Through what? Through wara'in wa ijtihad wa iffatin wa sadad. Because my role is the role of the prophets, which is what? Maw'idah, the advice, the sermon. And this is one of the greatest roles of the prophets. The role of the Quran is the sermon. The role of the death itself is a sermon, is an advice. So the Imam is reaching out to us. He's telling us, come and be part of this project that will give you success by you applying it on yourself and be the advisors of others. As the hadith says, كُلُّكُمْ رَاعٍ وَكُلُّكُمْ مَسْئُولٌ عَنْ رَعِيَّةٍ. No one should claim that I'm by myself. I should save myself and that's it. كُلُّكُمْ رَاعٍ وَكُلُّكُمْ مَسْئُولٌ عَنْ رَعِيَّةٍ. The third point, the Imam says, أَلَا وَإِنَّكُمْ لَا تَقْدِرُونَ عَلَى ذَلك. You won't be able to do that. Okay. How is the Imam is asking me to take him as a role model, and at the same time he's telling me that you can't be like me? The Imam salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. When the Imam asks me to take him as a role model, usually when I take a person as a role model, I have to be a copy of him. I have to be a copy. I look up to that successful businessman and I try to study the way he achieved that success and I follow him to the T, step by step, so I can reach the same success. With the normal human beings, I can be a copy of someone. When it comes to Amir al-Mu'mineen, to Ahlul Bayt, I cannot be. Because he's saying, أَلَا وَإِنَّكُمْ لَا تَقْدِرُونَ عَلَى ذَلك. Am I going to be satisfied from this dunya with the 2 pieces of barley bread? Inshallah, we are coming up to the martyrdom of Amir al-Mu'mineen, where he used to have some pieces of bread in a small bag. His companion saw the Imam tying up this bag and hiding it. He said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, I didn't know that you were stingy. You were afraid over your food. You were hiding it. He said, no. He said, I'm afraid that my children would mix this barley bread with some oil to soften it for me. And the night before the death, before the martyrdom of Amir al-Mu'mineen, he was breaking his fast at the house of Kulthum, his daughter. And then she put the iftar for Amir al-Mu'mineen. This iftar had milk, bread, some oil, and some salt. And then he told her, more than 2 types of food in one plate. Do you want your father to stay standing for longer on the day of judgment, being held accountable? Then he ordered her to remove the oil and the salt, and he only ate the barley bread. We aren't able to do that. When it comes to the outfit as well, once this cloth becomes 1 month old, we can't stand it anymore. We need to buy more. So we cannot be a copy of the Imam, but the solution is what? Even for Ahlul Bayt, Imam Zainul Abidin, and we mentioned this hadith before. When it comes to the ibadah of Amir al-Mu'mineen, when Imam Zainul Abidin opened the book of Amir al-Mu'mineen, he closed it and he put it to the side. He said, who's able to do that? Who has the ability to be like Amir al-Mu'mineen in terms of ibadah? So the answer to this is towards the end of the hadith. He says, فَأَعِينُونِ بِوَرَعٍ وَاجْتِهَادٍ وَعِفَّةٍ وَسَدٍ. Wara', abstinence, which is the goal of this month. When Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa ali in the sermon in the last week of Sha'ban about welcoming Shahr Ramadan, when Amir al-Mu'mineen asked Rasulullah, what is the best of the deeds in this month? He says, al-wara'u an maharimillah, to be abstinent, to abstain from the maharimillah. What is abstinence? In the hadith, and I will end with this point, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The hadith speaks about 3 types of patience. صبر على المصيبة وصبر على الطاعة وصبر على المعصية. Patience with the trials and tribulations. And this is something that we need. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala says this kind of patience, Allah will give me 300 levels in heaven. The distance between the level and the second is the distance between the earth and the heavens. He says, وَصَبْرٌ عَلَى الطَّاعَةِ, and patience with obedience, which is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give me 600 levels in heaven. The distance between the level and the second is the distance between the earth and the throne. And وَصَبْرٌ عَلَى الْمَعْصِيَةِ, patience with the sin. What does it mean? This is the explanation of abstinence, of wara'. Why does the sin require patience from me? And it's as simple as when I understand the consequences of the sin and how it affects my dunya, that is enough for me to be away from it. It requires a lot of patience, because to reach wara' is that I have to sacrifice even the introductions to the sin. Something that there is a possibility that can lead to a sin. A guy, for example, goes to a gym. It's permissible to go to the gym. There is nothing wrong with it. But it's mixed. There is music that is being played. You can take your headphones and avoid listening to music. But what about the things that you see around? Maybe it's permissible because you're not mixing with them closely, but it's an introduction to the sin. One look is an arrow of the arrows of shaitan, as the hadith says. Like we mentioned the other day, وَمَنْ يَدْخُلْ مَدَاخِلِ السُّوءِ يُتَّهَمْ. Once you put yourself in a situation where you will be accused, you will be accused. People saw you that you entered a certain place. You are not committing a sin, but that place is not suitable for a mu'min to be in. Any state that there is a possibility that it will lead to me committing a sin, once I sacrifice going to that place, I will gain that reward. And then I will achieve the best of the deeds of Shahr Ramadan, which is wara'. That's why he says, أَعِينُونِ بِوَرَعٍ وَاجْتِهَادٍ. Ijtihad is diligence, because wara' requires a lot of effort. وَعِفَّةٍ وَسَدَادٍ. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, and this is a very important narration, and that would be the last sentence that I will mention in the sermon. And this is something that should make me feel like aware and more overprotective when it comes to my religion. Imam al-Sadiq says, لَيْسَ مِنَّا وَلَا كَرَامَ مَنْ كَانَ فِي مِصْرٍ وفيه 100,000 أو يزيدون وكان أحد أورع منه. He says he is not from us. Those who exist in an era or in a place or in a country that contains 100,000 people or more, and there is one person in this 100,000 that is more pious than him. The Imam disassociates himself from these kind of people. What does it mean? Does it mean if I'm in a community and there's a person that is more religious than me, does it mean that that's how I failed? No. That means that the Imam is motivating us that you should compete when it comes to this, to your Iman, to your faith, to be the best of the best. Once you put yourself in that competition and you take it seriously, that is the key to the change, that is the key to progression, that is the key for you to become the most pious person. And once you put yourself in that process, that's when the Imam will accept you. And that's how you will join the ark. Through putting yourself through that mindset. I don't want anyone to be better than me. A lot of people, they use the excuse when you say, for example, the Prophet was like that. Fatima al-Zahra was like that. Ali was like that. They say, well, he was a prophet, I'm not a prophet. Ali was an Imam, I'm not an Imam. Fatima was an apple from heaven and I was not an apple. I'm not an apple from heaven. This is what we mentioned, that we moved them from the position of being a symbol to the position of being a role model. So the way to join the ark is this. Move Ahlul Bayt from the position of being only a symbol to being a role model. With diligence, with abstinence, with the mindset of trying to be the best person in the eyes of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. We ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to hasten the appearance of Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman, Ajjal Allah Ta'ala Farajahu al-Sharif, and to grant us the tawfiq and the strength to join the ark of Ahlul Bayt al-Asma salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. أعوذ بجلال وجهك الكريم أن ينقضي عني شهر رمضان أو يطلع الفجر من ليلتي هذه ولك قبلي تبعة أو ذنب تعذبني عليه، ولتعجيل الفرج واستجابة الدعاء وقبول الأعمال وقضاء الحوائج وشفاء المرضى ولأرواح أموات المؤمنين والمؤمنات من مات على الإيمان. نهدي الجميع ثواب ما قرأنا وثواب المباركة الفاتحة مع الصلوات.